the name NASA, what do you think of? Kennedy Space Center? Johnson Space Center? JPL? Well, yes, all these entities are part of NASA, but there are many more operations that are part of NASA, heavily involved in the Artemis Return to the Moon by 2024 program. Today, we're going to visit two of them, the Stennis Space Center and Marshall Space Flight Center. Welcome to Reaching for the Moon, hosted by me, Ed Grace. For those of you that don't know me, I worked on the Apollo program for 10 years and was a member of the Apollo 13 Mission Operations Team, awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. By the way, what do you think of my new shirt? Ingenuity Perseverance shirt. Sandy bought it for me. Pretty neat, huh? Before we start, the first flight of Ingenuity has been delayed from no earlier than April 8th to no earlier than April 11th. JPL continues to make progress on this exciting event, and we are anxiously awaiting to report on Ingenuity's first flight on Mars. There are 10 NASA field centers which provide leadership for and execution of NASA's work, and they're shown on this image on the screen now. All other facilities fall under the leadership of at least one of these field centers. Stennis Space Center, located in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, was developed originally to test the Saturn rockets used on the Apollo program. Today, it's responsible for testing of the Space Launch System that will be used on the Artemis Return to the Moon by 2024 program. By the way, all of the Saturn rockets that went to the moon for Apollo were tested at Stennis Space Center prior to launch. Stennis was also responsible for testing the Space Shuttle engines. The Stennis Space Center has had significant growth since the Apollo days. This is an aerial view of the complex today. Many commercial and educational facilities have chosen to locate at Stennis, as seen in this image. Likewise, population around Bay St. Louis has grown. NASA controls approximately 125,000 acres in and around Stennis, which is mostly undeveloped, to minimize the noise effects created by the firing of rocket engines upon the residents. Special facilities were constructed to allow the rockets that needed to be tested to travel by water to the Stennis facility. Special barges were built to transport the gases needed to test the rocket engines. The Stennis Space Center recently had a successful 8-minute firing of 4 RS-25 engines, which are the engines that power the core stage of NASA's Space Launch System. The successful test, known as a hot fire, was a critical milestone for the agency's Artemis 1 mission, which is scheduled to send an uncrewed Orion spacecraft on a test flight around the moon and back to Earth in November of 2021. The Space Launch System is an incredible feat of engineering and the only rocket capable of powering America's next generation missions that will place the first woman and the next man on the moon. The next NASA location that we're going to explore today is the George C. Marshall Space Flight Center, located in Huntsville, Alabama. Marshall Space Flight Center is the U.S. government's civilian rocketry and spacecraft propulsion research center. The newly formed U.S. Space Command recently selected Huntsville, Alabama as the location for its headquarters. The area is known as the Rocket Center of the World. This is where Dr. Wernher von Braun and his team developed the Mercury Redstone rocket, which took Alan Shepard into space. Huntsville is also the home to the world-famous U.S. Space and Rocket Center and the Space Camp. NASA's relied on Marshall Space Flight Center to deliver its most vital propulsion systems and hardware, state-of-the-art engineering technologies, and cutting-edge science and research projects since the end of World War II. As the largest NASA center, Marshall developed the Saturn launch vehicles for the Apollo program. During the 60s, the activities were largely devoted to the Apollo, with the Saturn family of launch vehicles being designed and tested at Marshall. Marshall also had a major role in post-Apollo activities, including Skylab, the Space Shuttle, and Space Lab. Marshall was also the lead center for the space shuttle, main propulsion, and external tank, the payloads and related crew training, International Space Station design and assembly, as well as a number of computers, networks, and information management for the systems. Today, Marshall is the lead for the Space Launch System and the human landing systems, which will be used on the Artemis program. Located on the Redstone Arsenal near Huntsville, Alabama, Marshall Space Center is named in honor of Army General George C. Marshall. The center contains the Huntsville Operations Support Center, also known as the International Space Station Payload Operations Center. The facility supports the International Space Station launches, payload, and experiment activities at Kennedy Space Center. The Huntsville Operations Support Center also monitors rocket launches from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station when a Marshall Center payload is on board. We have personally visited Huntsville and can highly recommend it as a great place to visit. Well, with that, we're going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed the virtual tours of Stennis Space Center and Marshall Space Flight Center, both of which are very heavily involved in the Artemis program. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, hit the subscribe notification buttons to be notified every time Reaching for the Moon posts a new video. Thank you for watching. Remember always, failure is not an option. Bye.